And a good Saturday night, everyone. Thanks for joining for this Tropics After Dark. Of course, we are still tracking Tropical Storm Elsa out there in the Caribbean. It's still moving pretty quickly off to the west-northwest right now, and winds are still below hurricane strength. I remember a couple of days or yesterday, we had a storm that was at hurricane strength. It got up to about 80 to 85 miles per hour, and since then, it's been struggling just a little bit, but right now it's maintaining 65 mile per hour winds, so certainly a lot. Not quite as strong as it was just a day or so ago. The pressure's up to 1,004 millibars, and look at the forward speed. It has slowed down a little bit, still moving kind of quickly, but compared to where it was yesterday at 30 miles per hour, it's down to 17. So the reason that's happening is when it starts to make that, when it gets to that kind of the edge of that periphery of the high pressure that's to its north, when it starts to, approach the edge and it's about to make that turn, just like a car, on the road, when you're about to make the turn, you put your blinker on, you slow down, you make that right-hand turn. Same thing with the storm here. It's nearing the edge of that high, and so it's going to start to make that turn heading into tomorrow, most likely. Notice what I'm talking about here on the cone. By tomorrow evening here, 8 p.m. tomorrow going into early Monday, that's when we start to see probably more of a northwest motion, and then finally kind of a north-northwest by the time we get into Tuesday. Or that would be the western side, but yeah, around this area here, we're going to start to see that turn happening, and it's going to start to head off toward the Florida Peninsula. Now, what I showed you last night, kind of verified today. Remember, I told you this storm only had, hey, how you doing tonight? Brandy, Crystal, Charlotte, thanks for joining tonight. Angie as well, thank you. Nicole, good to see you on here. Angel, Elma, thanks for joining a little bit later tonight, but still talking about Elsa, of course. Just a quick update to let y'all know what's going on. No major developments today with Elsa, which is probably a good thing, because normally if the thing would have exploded into a big hurricane, there would have been mass hysteria happening and lots of updates. But it's kept itself at bay for now, and we hope that's the case, because remember what I told you last night is it really had a time frame of tonight, through the day today, tonight, and then going into tomorrow, before it crosses over Cuba. By the time we get into late tomorrow into Monday, that should disrupt the circulation a little bit. Now, the only thing that would be concerning right now is looking at the satellite picture. This storm, may actually make its way between, it really, it avoided Hispaniola here, which is mountainous, and then it looks like it's going to go north of Jamaica and kind of squeeze through here before, going into Cuba. So looks like it's going to keep itself over water for a little bit longer and not interact with some of these islands before Cuba. That gives it a little bit more opportunity to maybe strengthen a little bit more. Now, I want to stress to you that the National Hurricane Center is, if you look at their discussion here on the bottom, they're only forecasting it to get back up to about 70 miles per hour. But I always stress to you, it would only take 5 more than that to get back up to a Category 1 hurricane. So can it get back up to a Cat 1? Certainly it can. Will it? That remains to be seen. But with all the things between the islands and conditions aren't perfect out there, in the Caribbean. There is still some shear. The water is warm, but could we see it get back to Cat 1? Certainly we could, and it's going to be over water certainly long enough to do that before it crosses Cuba. Now tonight, we're seeing really a nice kind of explosion of storms there toward the end of the loop. It's hard to really know where the center of circulation is located. Is it somewhere in here? Are we getting a center relocation maybe a little bit more to the south? I don't know. I can't tell you that. It's hard to tell that from the infrared satellite, but what I can tell you is that tonight on the satellite picture, it does look a little bit better than it did last night, as we're seeing some of these deeper whites, the darker colors, and some of those pinks in here toward where the apparent center would be located. So maybe it's trying to get its act back together a little bit. Maybe it's going to strengthen. We'll see. 65 miles per hour at the 10 p.m. At the 1 a.m., they'll have another update. We'll see if it's strengthened. If the satellite continues like this, maybe it is starting to strengthen a little bit, but hopefully not too much. But I'll keep you all updated on that. So here's the latest cone, and what we're looking at, it still looks like this is going to impact Florida. And, the western side here, maybe of the peninsula, maybe along the panhandle here, still some models taking it that direction. But, it does appear that we're going to be dealing with only a tropical storm. That's the hope, that it doesn't strengthen too much. and it's going to move over Cuba. That's going to disrupt it a little bit more. So there, but with that said, we'll still have something tropical making its way, in this direction going into Tuesday, Monday night into Tuesday. So all folks here along the western side of Florida, even central Florida as well, need to watch this, because remember, even if this thing goes west of your area, you're going to be on this nasty side of a tropical system. So there's going to be some impacts there. Rainfall, gusty winds, maybe some isolated tornadoes, and maybe the bands. We'll see how it sets up. But certainly there's going to be some impacts in these areas, regardless if you get a direct landfall from Elsa. So keep that in mind. You don't have to get a direct landfall to still see some impacts from the system, especially if you're east of where the center's coming in, which it looks like it's going to be hard for Florida to avoid to not be on the east side of it, unless it would take this extreme eastern part of the cone, and that would put a lot of Florida on the west side. That does not seem like a likely scenario. So even if it would take the center track or a little bit more to the west, that would still put a lot of Florida on the eastern side of the circulation. So still some impacts from the storm regardless. Now, like I said, it has been a little bit of good news. If you look at the latest, this is the latest GFS. This is the one rolling in for midnight. And so here's what happens, right? Here goes the storm. As it approaches Cuba, that's late tomorrow night into Monday. Now notice when it crosses Cuba, it really just kind of degenerates back into an open wave, as the mountainous terrain really affecting it. And then look, here it is back over the Gulf. This is late Monday into Tuesday, still just an open wave kind of axis right there, right? And then it starts to move back north, and it really never gets its act back together according to the GFS. So is that how it's going to play out? That wouldn't be a bad scenario. Now, even with this, remember, you'll have something here, and along the eastern side, you'll still have a little bit of onshore flow. If you remember Ada last year, if you were around like the Tampa area and the western portion of Florida, Ada was a late season storm. Wasn't very strong, but there had some onshore flow there and pushing some water in. They had some flooding issues over there toward, some of the Tampa Bay area and some of the suburbs around there. So don't just say, well, it might be weak. It's still going to be something tropical. There's still going to be some onshore flow on the eastern side of it, and there's still going to be some nasty squalls moving in, some gusty, winds located in some of these bands that are going to be pushing in. So don't think because it's just going to be maybe a little bit weaker, you're still going to see some impacts here in Florida. Going into probably late Monday, and then especially on Tuesday looks like the nasty day. So something to keep in mind there. Not going to be, it shouldn't be very strong, but you can still see some impacts from some tropical, a tropical system that's just a tropical storm, mainly lots of rainfall and some onshore flow in the eastern side, probably causing some storm surge in some spots, including the Keys. Again, nothing extreme, but 1 to 2 foot water rise is possible, maybe some higher areas. If this is a little bit stronger than anticipated, but at least 1 to 2 foot water rise down there in the Keys. And as we get closer to Florida, the National Hurricane Center will fine tune these and see what we're going to see on the western side of, the peninsula there as the storm moves in. In addition, you do have some rain, but I got to tell you, this is encouraging numbers. Again, like I told you all the other night, it's not going to be a slow mover. It's going to get out fast. So the highest number totals we're seeing here, some of these yellows in here, and that's just really 4 to 6 inches. Again, it's a lot of rain. It's nasty weather, but it's not an extreme amount that's going to do a lot of damage and seeing a lot of flooding potential. And then really the whole state here of Florida in that light to darker green there, and that's all just 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. Maybe some pockets of 4 to 6 as well. You always have some isolated areas that may get a little more than forecast. And around the Panhandle, still expect with that draped front, not only with that front kind of draped across the area, and with a tropical system moving in with it, kind of a mixture there to see the rainfall. So that's what's happening tonight, with Elsa. Again, it is, Nita, it does look like it's going to be going to Florida, certainly. Just exactly where remains to be seen. So the bottom line tonight with Elsa is that we do see a little bit of a, some of these stronger storms here. I don't know where the center is on the infrared picture, but I got to say, going back to the National Hurricane Center's plot, they had it kind of due east of Jamaica there, right? So let's go back to this one. So yeah, if we're looking at the center, we are looking probably, it's probably in here, right? You can kind of see a little bit of a spin in there. A little bit of a wobble north and south a little bit toward the end. So the center's somewhere, in this area. And it's gonna go in this direction and start to make that turn as we go into tomorrow night. But we don't want to see this thing intensify too much on the satellite. It does appear that it's maybe trying to intensify, but sometimes you got to have a little bit more time to see what it's doing a couple of hours from now, because these things kind of go into ebbs and flows of the tropics. It'll get, bubble up and then back to, not so impressive. So that's what you get when a system that's not very well developed. And Elsa really has, just yesterday morning, I believe, when it was a hurricane, looked good for a little while, and then it kind of went downhill yesterday evening and really hasn't gotten its act together today. So let's hope that remains the case. And this forecast does verify that we'll have a tropical storm the entire way, and we don't get any additional strengthening with this. So something to something to watch over the next couple of days with Elsa. We'll start to see that northwest turn into tomorrow night, early Monday morning, and then should see this thing head toward Florida, hopefully as just a weak tropical storm that's going to really get dismantled a little bit once it crosses over the mountainous Cuban terrain. So that's the latest on Elsa tonight. Thanks for joining for this Tropics After Dark. I'll keep y'all updated. I'm going to watch the overnight updates from the National Hurricane Center, some of the model runs, and let y'all know if anything changes. But thank y'all for watching tonight, Tropics After Dark. Thank you for following the page, and I'll continue to keep y'all updated. Have a good night, everyone, and happy 4th of July.